Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am Imani the writer, and today we are discussing the Kent test. I was literally planning on filming a whole nother video today, and a follower of mine brought this test to my attention, and I was very intrigued. So I decided, this is what I'm gonna do today. So I did a little research, looked over the test, and I am here to give you guys my thoughts. And I'm gonna do that while I do my makeup. Yay! I'm going to be using this article from the Mary Sue that's called Introducing the Kent Test for Female Characters of Color in the Stories We Tell. I'm going to be quoting this article to give you guys a little bit more background on the situation. The Kent test is a pop culture test, and it was introduced to celebrate International Women's Day. The article says it seeks to offer a way to measure the participation of women in the stories we tell. More specifically, it seeks to provide a more in-depth measurement of how women of color are used and portrayed. Now, this is the first thing I saw before actually taking a gander at the test myself. I was intrigued, and based on this amount of praise, I had high expectations. I really did. Listen to what it said. Unlike the other pop culture tests named above, which include the Macklemore test and the Bechdel-Wallace test, which I haven't taken a look at, but I might later. The Kent test is really in-depth, complete with explanations and context as to why any one particular element is important to look at. So I was like, okay. Because notice, when it said pop culture test, I wasn't expecting much. I really wasn't. I really wasn't. But then I was like, oh, in-depth with complete explanations. So I was like, okay, this is about to be popping. I was expecting at least a good 10 pages. Because y'all know the content that I put out about representation of people of color, especially women of color. You know I'm pumping out with the content on a regular basis. I could be writing a whole book on just the things I talk about on my TikTok videos. So I was expecting at least a good 10 pages. Can you imagine my shock when I saw that your girl is a whopping 2 pages long? 2 pages long. I was like, wait, where's the rest of it? I was like, it's okay. I'm gonna give it a chance. You have to remember, it's a pop culture test, you guys. So it's not like it's a peer-reviewed, scholarly, recognized thing, you know? Pop culture tests are a good way to kind of start off and kick off the conversation, but you can't just work with this by itself. Like, I'm letting y'all know right now, you can't just work with this test by itself. There's a lot you have to do and a lot you have to still consider. I wonder if I should do what the YouTube gurus do and kind of like talk about the products I use. I'm not that big on makeup, but like, why not? Okay, so I'm going in with my Mented Everyday Eyeshadow Palette. Yes, I was right, Everyday Eyeshadow Palette. I love this palette. I love this palette so much. It's so easy. Most of my looks come from right here, honestly. It's pretty big too. This is an e.l.f. brush. Going in with this color. They do come out a little dark. I do have to say, they do come out a little dark. So I'm gonna go in with this color for my foundation. Let's take a look at the actual test. There are 7 categories. This is what the definition says. It says it's a test designed to determine whether a film or any other piece of media provided the audience with adequate representation of femmes of color. Now, first thing that I didn't even recognize when the first time I read that article that I just talked to you guys about was it said women of color in the article. And then the test says femmes of color. You guys need to be consistent with the terms that you use, because that's very confusing. This is meant to encourage discussion on what good representation can look like for femmes of color, and it is not the be-all, end-all test, but it is a good place to start. I'm using the Rimmel Stay Matte Fix and Go Primer and Setting Spray. Please don't judge me for my cheap products. Listen, your girl barely goes anywhere, okay? This was created by Clarkeisha Kent. I like that name, Clarkeisha. Okay, ma'am. What's the next thing? Concealer. I am using Pro Conceal by LA Girl in the color Espresso. Okay, so the instructions are add points in accordance with the following elements of the Kent test. The lowest number of points at a film or another piece of media can achieve is 0, while the highest number of points is 8. We're gonna go through all of the different questions of the test. So, well, not questions, they're like categories. And A, the woman femme of color character must not solely be a walking stereotype / tropes. Tropes are not discouraged, but if the only thing you remember about the character is that they are the damsel in distress, the sassy black friend, the dragon lady, etc., this point will be lost. I agree with this. The only critique I have of this category is that it's a bit too general. I would be a little bit more specific. That's the thing, when it comes to this test, I feel like there needs to be multiple tests done for different communities specifically, kind of break it up so that we know which stereotypes we're dealing with which community, because a lot of people are just not aware of the stereotypes to look out for and things like that. So yeah, I'd say that that's a bit general, but I agree with the statement and I agree with the category. B is must have their own plot/narrative arc. Self-explanatory. This character can and should have a story that contributes to the film/piece of media's overall narrative. If they do not, the point will be lost. That's not necessarily true. It gives the connotation that you're not allowed to have POC support characters or just extras at all. You 100% are. I think that the whole point of this question is to really just say that to make a story more inclusive to diversity, you have to have a diverse main cast where they do have a narrative arc, they do have a plot, they do have development. And if that's the case, I agree with that. But it's no way to say that you're not allowed to have POC support characters, flat characters. You should also have a very diverse kind of background when it comes to the people that are there. That's one thing that I didn't really get when it came to the Brats. They had a very diverse main character selection, but Styles High was not diverse. I felt like Sasha was the only black person in town and it was very, very odd. So you should also have a very diverse selection of background characters as well. Also, it's not self-explanatory. Please don't assume that anything is self-explanatory. Just because it's self-explanatory to you, it's not always that way for everybody. Especially since there has been a lot of discourse specifically on TikTok when it comes to should non-POC writers even write about people of color as the main character. There's been a lot of discourse about that, so it is not by any means self-explanatory. No clue what colors I should be doing today. We're just gonna have a ball. We're just gonna experiment. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna see what happens. A fan brush with this color in my Mented Everyday shadow palette. It's a really nice, pretty, shimmery color. And I'm using this to highlight around my nose, my cheeks here, and my eyebrow bone structure there. So that's gonna be our highlight for the day. This is my go-to color for my highlighting. I just love it so much. It just has such a pretty, look at the shimmer, look at the, like. Now we're getting to C. Woman/femme character of color must not be solely included in the narrative just for the purpose of holding down some male character and his story. If the character is only showing up to help a male character if he needs it and when he needs it and nothing else, this is a problem and this point will be lost. I agree with this statement. However, I'm very confused with the wording that is used here. You used the term male. This is not a gender neutral term at all. And that wasn't your intention, then that would be fine. But it's very clear that it is very much your intention to be gender neutral because you have femme all over the place. You have it here, you have it at the very, very top. You have it in the description. You have it in the women/femme of color character. You have it there. You have it again here in F. You just have it all over the place. You have the term femme all over the place. So it's very confusing when you all of a sudden use the term male. That is not gender neutral in the slightest. And it has some implications. It has some problematic implications. This clearly is an attempt at a gender neutral test. But by using this term, you take people of color, you take women of color, or non-binary people of color, who identify as masc out of the equation. These people exist and they identify this way, and you completely take them out of the equation, out of the story, which gives the connotation that this test is only considering relationships between people of color if there are cisgendered men involved. And that's problematic. There are too many other combinations, too many other pairings to only focus on the relationships in which cisgendered men are present. I'm using this brush here in this really deep red color here to give some blush to my cheeks. I love the way that looks. I do a little contour on my jawline. Anyway, moving on. Must not solely be included in the narrative to prop up a white female character. Self-explanatory. Again, don't assume that something is self-explanatory. And related to A, which was must not solely be a walking stereotype, which I agree with. There's the best friend stereotype, a bunch of the mammy stereotype, a bunch of stereotypes in which that kind of thing is happening. This includes characters that only play friends, mentors, servants, and etc. to white women characters. If this character is not only utilized to make a white woman character seem cooler, more interesting, or more progressive, this point would be lost. I would just make it a little bit more inclusive to just say white people in general. But I see what you're getting at. The trope is mainly used when it comes to white women. Oh, I need to charge my laptop. I'm gonna lose all my notes. I'm gonna use this deep brown color to contour like my jawline. But after this is where it gets complicated. Like, what am I gonna do with my eyes, y'all? A Maybelline concealer. I'll just be using whatever white concealer I could use. The whitest the better, to just make these colors pop on my eyelids a little bit more. Yeah, I don't really have any critiques for D. I completely agree. Now here is where things get a bit tricky. We're talking about E now. Must not solely exist in the film or the piece of media for the purpose of fetishization. Now I agree with this statement here. What I am a little bit concerned about is the description. I'm surprised to see how much of a rose gold hue this color has. Like, it kind of does look that way on camera, but in person it doesn't really look like it would have that kind of rose gold hue. Maybe it's just because of the concealer I put down to kind of, wow, I am surprised. But E says, yeah, we talk about the purpose of fetishization. Historically, women of color, be they black, brown, Asian, or native, have been fetishized in the US. 100% agree. And this phenomenon is all too common in our media as well. If a film/piece of media does nothing but include women of color for the express purpose of being fetishized, gawked at, or drew over, this point will be lost. 100% agree. It's the wording that comes next I'm a little concerned about. The only exception to this is if the film/piece of media have established very, very clearly that this is the character's choice, is in line with their character, or is an attempt by the characters to subvert an existing trope/expectation. If none of these exceptions apply, this point will be lost. Don't like the way that was worded. Like, it's basically saying, oh, if the character wanted to be fetishized or that way, if the character was fetishizing themselves, then it's okay. I don't like that because it is the justification for real women of color, not fictional characters, real women of color being violated through gendered violence. A lot of people say, oh, she was sexualizing herself, she was fetishizing herself. It's not, I'm under the impression that it is not possible to or fetishize yourself, because fetishizing someone includes objectification, looking at yourself as an object. And unless you actually believe and see yourself as an object of purely existing for somebody's sexual gratification, I don't believe it's possible for you to sexualize yourself. You can see yourself as a sexy human being. You could see yourself as sexually attractive and be in tune with your sexuality. But unless you actually see yourself as just purely an object and not a human being deserving of basic human decency and basic respect, it's not possible to sexualize yourself and fetishize yourself. But that's what I was getting from this. Like, if the character was sexualizing themselves, then it's okay. But I feel like that's how fetishization normally happens, if that makes sense. I think my biggest problem is that you can, the sexualization be the character's choice and in line with the character, and it still be a problematic character. You know what I mean? It's all in the technique, and it's all in the way they describe that character as a person. It's literally about the objectification. And even if the character is consenting to being objectified, which I don't necessarily believe, like, I think you're just trying to say that they're in tune with their sexuality and they see themselves as a sexual person, and they're not afraid to be vocal about how they feel about themselves and everything. I think that's all you're trying to say. The issue is the objectification. You can have a character that's like that and still objectify her and fetishize her, and it could still be an issue. I don't know if I'm explaining that right. I might make another video going into more detail about that, if I'm not really explaining it right. But it's just like, you can do all of that and it's still an issue. I had to take issue with the fact that you can be exempt, like, that's from losing a point if you create a character that wants to be sexualized. Because I don't believe she would want to be sexualized. I think she's just comfortable with her sexuality. She wouldn't necessarily consent to being sexualized by other people without her consent. Like, that's what I'm really getting at here. Hi, my name is Imani the Writer, and I am a writer and a TikTok influencer. I give tips for writing about people of color. Are you working on a story right now? Does it feature people of color? You'll probably need a little bit of extra help, don't you? It's hard to know where to start, but the people have spoken, and I am here with the answer. Introducing Culturecraft. Culturecraft is a great site where you can get that personal one-on-one help. At Culturecraft, I will be your personal writing coach, giving you tips and tricks and guiding you throughout the entire writing process. If you want a person of color to review your story, we offer sensitivity reading for only 1 cent per word.
The sensitivity reader has a strong writing or editing background with the personal experience to help review projects for racism, bias, discrimination, misrepresentations, microaggressions, and stereotypes. We at Culturecraft are ready to review projects at any length. Apply to join the waitlist today. Just fill out the form with your name, email, basic info about your story, and any personal concerns that you might want to share with me.
If you want one-on-one help, book a session with me.
When you book a one-on-one session with me, I can give you advice tailored specifically to your own story. Whether you're working on a novel, comic, or screenplay, I can guide you in the right direction by providing advice, writing exercises, and resources. I can also lend a helping hand by guiding you in the right direction for your writing research, all for $50 an hour. And if you want more consistent monthly, weekly, or bi-weekly help, there are discounts and packages available for you.
And let me tell you a secret. We have classes and workshops coming soon. But wait, there's more. We have so many opportunities for discounts and packages just for you. 10% off, 20, 30, sometimes 50. Do you want to know how to get these discounts? Follow me on TikTok at Imani the Writer. Sign up to be a member on culturecraftbyimani.com for free, 100% free. And browse the site for more free and low-cost resources, including resources available on TikTok and on Patreon. The writing journey is a process, and I want to help you through it. Check out culturecraftbyimani.com for the help that you need today. I'm gonna dip into another palette for the gold that I want. This palette is called Slam Beauty. I got it on Groupon. It has so many colors, and I really like this palette. It was super cheap. The eyeshadows are pretty bomb. I like them a lot. This is what it looks like. Very wide selection. Yeah, these are the only 2 palettes I ever use, just because there's no need, I feel like, to use any other palette besides these, personally. There's so many colors to choose from. Yeah. I'm gonna use the same color I had before, the same brush, sorry, I had before, and pick this gold here. It's a much more yellowy kind of gold. That's what I really, really want, like a really yellowy gold. I'm gonna use this brush and use these purples here. This dark one for the corner. I'm gonna use a different brush for the corner, but maybe this one here for this area here. I can work with this. F is must have at least 1 interaction with another woman/femme of color. Said interaction does not have to be pleasant, but this point will be lost if the characters are reduced to nothing more than competition for a male character. Would like some clarification on that. Is that referring to like competition, like when a male character's like attention or affection? Is that what it's referring to? If that's the case, I agree. I do agree. Confused about the bonus point though. A bonus point will be awarded if the second woman of color is not related to the first woman of color in any way, shape, or form. I don't know what to make of that. I'm just kind of just like, why? Oh, why bonus point for that? But okay. But you're right. There should be other people of color there besides like their family and stuff. But sometimes the story is just about the family. You know what I mean? Sometimes stories have like, I've watched whole psychological thrillers with like a cast of 3 people, and the story is just about those 3 people and their relationship with each other, and they're all family members. And I don't think it took away from the story, because that was the story, the focus on those people and their relationship with each other. I don't feel like there should be a deduction of points or a loss of points or a gain of points just to include, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, I don't get the whole bonus point thing. I get it, but like, I feel like I don't at the same time. I don't know. Is it working? Let me try the other side. I'm gonna use a corner brush and kind of use a little bit of black and mix in with the purple to kind of get that darker shade of purple. I'm liking it, but I gotta clean up the bottoms a little bit and maybe do something else. Maybe I could pop a little red in the center. Maybe, I don't know. Okay, and the last one is must not be the go-to character to sacrifice in the film/piece of media. If this character suddenly offers themselves up to save another character in the film/piece of media, especially if the character being saved is not another woman of color, and especially if the piece of media If this is a piece of media that is scarce when it comes to women of color, this point will be lost. The only exception to this is if the film's piece of media has established very clearly that the sacrifice is completely in line with the character's wants, needs, and virtues. If this is coming left field for the character, this point will be lost. This is the term woman, again, which is kind of confusing. You gotta be consistent. Like, are you trying to be gender neutral or not? You gotta pick one. It's okay, because it's just like, you can literally just create a whole new test for different categories in the LGBT community to kind of get that nuanced information and get to really specifics on different things going on in the LGBT community in terms of their representation and stuff. Like, that's okay, but you gotta pick one and you gotta be consistent with it. I do agree that the whole sacrifice thing, I do agree with it. I'm still somewhat confused because if it's in alignment with the character's wants and needs and everything, you can create a character that is like that and it can still happen, and I still think it's a problem. Though I still think it's an issue if they're still considered the sacrifice character, even if it is in alignment with their wants and their needs. Why is it that the POC is the one who feels so inclined to sacrifice themselves for someone else? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's room for error there. I don't know, I just feel like they still, maybe I'll just leave it like this now that I think about it. I kind of do like it. But even if the character wants it and it's in alignment with who they are, I still feel like it could still be an issue, you know what I mean? I don't know, maybe I'll think a little bit more about that. But overall, I do agree, 100%. Well, not 100%, but I do agree with this statement. And that is every single question. So what I'm gonna do, right, is I'm going to pop a little eyeliner, put on some lip gloss, a little lipstick. We're gonna see where we're at, if there's anything else I want to change. I'm gonna do all that off camera, and then we're gonna wrap it up with my final thoughts on the test as a whole. Hey y'all, I am back, and overall I am pleased with my look today. I am feeling this. Even though it doesn't really match with my outfit, I guess it kind of, it don't match with nothing I got going on, but honestly, I think I still look cute, regardless. I don't like the false eyelashes. I just can't be bothering with them things. But I'm pleased. These little things bother me, but you know what? I'm a beginner, and I think I did pretty decent. Let me put on some setting spray. Now let's take off the bonnet and see how we're looking. Okay. She a baddie today. I'm feeling this. I like how I look today. Alright, so now with my finished look, I'm going to give my final thoughts on the Kent's test. Despite all of my criticisms, I do believe that this is a really great way to kick off a conversation about how we can statistically measure how well POC representation is. So kudos to you, Kent, for kicking off this conversation. I really, really like it. I like where we're going. I think it's a very buildable test that we can build on, that we can improve, and it kind of, I believe it deserves a space in scholarly circles, which I would love to be a part of that conversation. You know, because as you guys know, I am an English major. I'm graduating with my bachelor's soon, but I do plan on taking a year off to focus on culture craft, and then, or however many years I feel like I need to just get culture craft on the right track. And then I will be going back for my master's and my PhD, and I will be bringing a lot of what I do on this platform and on TikTok and on culture craft into academia. So I would love to continue the conversation once I am there. And actually start thinking about it now, because it could be a really great topic for my research when it's time to do the whole master's and MFA and PhD kind of thing. So thank you, Kent, for this wonderful, wonderful kickoff to the conversation. I would like to talk about where I see this going and how I see myself participating in this conversation moving forward. First and foremost, and this is not me kind of talking to the creator of the test. I want to speak to my followers, because I know a lot of you are white. If you are white and you don't make a habit of consistently educating yourself on stereotypes and tropes found when it comes to the representation of people of color, I want you to know, like, be fully aware that you cannot use this test on yourself and on your own writing and expect accurate results. the specific categories I feel like that would be an issue is A and D. I feel like if you are not aware of the different stereotypes going on when it comes to the representation of people of color, especially when it comes to the specific culture that you are writing about, if you're just not aware of those stereotypes and how they play a role in media, you're not going to be able to answer A without being unbiased and without just not knowing that information. And D, I just think it will be an issue if the issue would just be bias. I feel like the issue would just be bias. If you are a male writer or a mask writer, E and C will be an issue if you are a mask writer or a male writer and you are not familiar with a lot of the discourse when it comes to women of color in writing, and in film and in media and things like that. So don't want people feeling comfortable like doing kind of like a self-diagnosis type situation that you can kind of just take the test yourself and gauge whether or not your own story is adequate in terms of representation. What I want to do with Culturecraft is to kind of create my own test, something like the Kent test, but a little bit more. What I would want to do actually is create a series of tests that are like the Kent test, that can help kind of diagnose or measure how well the POC representation in different stories and films are for my clients. If that's something that you guys feel would be really useful for you, let me know. I'll be working on that straight away. However, it might take a while for me to get it to you, because best believe when I create these kinds of tests, I'm gonna have it copyrighted because people be thieves out here, literally thieves. So, but I will be working on that straight away if you feel like that will be helpful for you when it comes to Culturecraft. It will be a series of tests that I'll be working on, and it might benefit me in terms of like my research for like my master's and my PhD and everything like that. But I don't want you feeling comfortable using this test by yourself on your own story. The best way I feel to get the most out of the Kent test, or any tests that are like it, is for you to have a focus group of sensitivity readers or viewers from the community that you are discussing in your story or in your film or in your work of art or media, and have them take the test as a kind of survey to measure how your story holds up in terms of POC representation. And then you take the data and analyze it and see what you can do and how you can improve moving forward. If Culturecraft gets to a point where I can do that kind of thing and create those kind of focus groups, I definitely would love to. But you guys gotta support me. You guys gotta support me. You gotta watch my content. You gotta watch my TikToks and watch my YouTube videos. If you can financially support me by booking a session with me on Culturecraft, we can get that done right away, because I feel like Culturecraft can be really, really big. I really feel like Culturecraft can be that chick, you know? I feel like there's a space in the market that just has not been touched that Culturecraft can like get into. But you guys gotta support me, and then because there's gonna be a lot to actually find people and to be in the focus group, vet those people, and then pay them for their time to take the survey, or you know, if they want to volunteer, they can volunteer, but I feel like you kind of have to pay them for their time if you're going to be reading your whole book or watching your whole movie or something like that, you know what I mean? And then we would have to analyze the data together and then come up with strategies to improve. So the client's not one that gonna have to shell out the cash though, that's the thing. But I want to make that happen. I want to create my own tests, and I want to create an experiment where I can put those tests to the tests and have actual data to work with so that we can improve your story. And I want that to be something I do. It's a hope for the future. And if you're about the vision, if you see it happening, you know, make it happen for me. Just support me, and I will get back to you ASAP. Other than that, my biggest issue is that it's an attempt to be an all-inclusive type situation for women and femmes of color. And when it comes to testing these things, like actually testing different variables to measure something, you have to be as specific as possible. Being too general will lead to mistakes, will lead to analyzing the data for causations instead of correlations, and it will lead to a false analysis of the data. As specific as possible, which is why I recommend having a series of tests, which I will be trying to create myself. So thank you, Kent, for inspiring me. And I cannot wait for the conversation about measuring POC to kind of kick off, and we'll see where it goes from there. So this has been my video on the Kent test. I hope you guys like it. I hope you find it insightful. And I'm not saying that you can't use the Kent test. Like, maybe I'll be utilizing some of it or a different version of it for my own clients for Culturecraft, so that we can kind of get a sense for how we can measure how the POC representation is. But yeah, I hope this has been helpful. It's really been educational for me. I had a lot to think about. So yeah, and this is the end of my video. So don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on TikTok or Instagram, all that different stuff. I will be linking them down below. Have an amazing, wonderful day, y'all. Bye.